Performance Podcast. We are live today on two channels. And of course, you can see it later on Spotify, Apple Podcast, or certainly on LinkedIn as well. Smart Performance, S stands for self-care, M for mindful growth, A for adaptive problem solving, R for rhythmic operation, T for building that ever important thriving community, and P for performance. I'm really happy to have Daniel with me all the way from sticky, hot, and humid Florida. And he's very jealous because I'm sitting up at the Adirondack and it is beautiful 68 degrees outside over here. We're going to be talking today about drift or scope drift, or what he says from whatever the executives envision to what operations is actually doing. I guess maybe we'll go a little Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon. Sometimes the North Star is hiding, and we're not sure what the North Star is, but that's what we're going to talk about today. It's going to be a quick 15 minutes, and I promise you it will be actionable. You can do something with it today, because we all know if you listen today, you'll forget about this tomorrow. Daniel, thank you for joining us today, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, first, Walter, thank you so much for having me on here. And really, there's been a question that has shaped my career. And why do good strategies so often break down in execution? For more than 27 years, I've led complex operations with around transformation and have had real accountability with people, customers, financial results. And today, I'm the founder and president of Pangea Effect and the author of The E3 Effect. And my focus is helping leaders build the clarity, ownership, and operating discipline that turns change into measurable, repeatable results. And in today's world, that includes AI enabled change. Companies have to think differently when it comes to AI enabled change versus traditional change before we had this incredible technology.
I love the topic. It is something that I'm deeply interested in and deeply vested in with my clients as well. It's one of my frustrations as well. This is a lot of behavior based issues, right? It is that you can lead a horse to water, you can make him drink. That's behavior. It is about 70 to 80% of the things we set out to do, we don't do at all, or we don't do it very well, and certainly not the sustainability. And that still holds true today. So, whatever comes next and that you're going to tell us about, again, it starts with a crystal clear vision, and it's about meaningful metrics and follow up. That's the behavior piece of it. So, Daniel, I always start off with the problem statement, right? Tell me what the problem is. Why did you even want to develop a solution around it?
Yeah, so I've worked in organizations where I've seen this over and over again, and also with my clients, and I've worked across 15 industries, Walter. So quite a broad view, and it seems to be repeated over and over, whether it be a mid-market company or a very large multi-billion-dollar enterprise. And the problem statement is that there's a gradual separation between what the leadership intends and what actually happens in day-to-day execution. And then the real problem is that the whispers that are occurring of the gaps spreading is not being identified and actioned early enough.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And the first thing I think of when you say that is that partly is due to the fact that people love to measure outcomes, but
Yes.
they don't measure drivers. And if the outcome is not crystal clear and there's no accountability around the outcome, other than maybe once a month or once a quarter, or let me skip a meeting, I will see you next time around. So much can happen in between that, and that's where that drift often takes place. So now that we are well established, listen, people don't stick to the strategy of the company itself. The results often speak for themselves, that they are not performing as well as they could, right? And that can be translated in many
Yeah.
different things. So what is the solution to the problem? And start, you can give me an overview first, and I would like you to break that down over the next 10 minutes on what actionable steps people can actually take today, other than reaching out to you and I to do it for them or with them.
Absolutely. I would start with give people a clear outcome on what as a strategy you're looking for. I have worked in with clients who one client I went to and was speaking with the CEO, and they were about to go through a massive scale. They had one time been a much larger organization due to some particular market environmental issues. They shrunk about 30%, and they just won some new business that was going to grow them again, but they hadn't done this in over 5 years. So they knew that that their team was not ready for this growth. And I asked him, well, what are your key metrics? Well, how do you, besides we're going to grow, what else are you telling the team to execute your organization? And he said, well, we have a dashboard. I said, great. Well, how many metrics are on your dashboard? He said, well, there's about 53 metrics. and and I said, okay, well, it's probably hard for any one individual to be able to manage to 53 metrics. Which are the key metrics you use as an organization? What are your key ones? He goes, oh, I know what those are. And everyone knows what they are. And I said, great, what are they? He said, well, top line revenue. I said, okay, well, every organization looks at that. And attrition. And so I said, okay, well, how is a frontline team member going to be thinking about what they're going to have to action to reduce attrition when really you want top line revenue? You're having a fear-based metric driving the business instead of actually what are the clear outcomes that you are looking for and that they can attach their work to. And so what we talk about is defining success. What does success look like? Teams of all sizes like to win. And so, how do we create winning? How do you define winning? Does the employee at every level in the organization know what winning looks like for them? And does that all cascade up to the overall strategy that the organization enterprise has signed up for? Right. And so, first thing is giving people a clear outcome, but then comes real authority behind that, that at the right levels in the organization, that there's empowerment to make sure that they can actually do the work, and that the authority is near the work, not layers away from it. And when you do that, it starts to clarify decision rights. And when decision rights and boundaries around those decisions and escalation paths are created, and they know what the clear outcomes are, now you start having an organization that starts to fire on more cylinders.
Yeah, and it's interesting you say that because that's shifting the power from the owner to the performer with accountability back to the owner itself. Of course, one of the pickles I find in most organizations that people were technically sound and were promoted into leadership roles, but oops, they forgot to teach them how to actually lead. So by
Yes.
default, they continue to do, which greatly frustrates everybody around them, and forget about measurement, right? And I love the fact when you say 53, well, at least one number in that is right, and that's the three. In other words, we
Right.
should not have more than three things to focus on any given time, so we could truly execute against that, right? If everything is important, nothing is important any longer. And this holds true in the industries that I've worked in too, is that either they don't measure at all, or those numbers are so ambiguous or reported so latently that they are not really actionable anymore. So with that said, right, so you have laid down a crystal clear foundation of, listen, less is more, clarity is extremely important, buy-in from the ground floor to the top, going on the gambit to see where the work gets done, and making people feel empowered to do the work that's aligned all the way up to the North Star of the organization itself. So what is next after? What is a leader to do to make sure that this actually gets hardwired into the organization?
Yeah, so I would actually take a step back. So now we know we want clear outcomes, right? So the E3 effect is enable, empower, and endeavor. And it works in that order. So enable, a leader's job is to set people up to succeed,
Mm-hmm.
set the team members up to succeed, clarify the outcome, provide trusted data that everyone can trust, the skills that, which is what you were just talking about, Walter, making sure that they're trained right, the tools, the processes, and then setting up the right guardrails, so that way they know where their limit of their empowerment is, right? But make that ownership real, around the empowerment piece. And then the last step is endeavor. And I purposely talk about endeavor and actually don't talk about execute. Execute, every company knows that this is important, but execution, if you think about that word and the definition of execute, it means it has an endpoint.
Mm-hmm.
It also means it's also an endpoint for no purpose. Execute is just to complete an item. Endeavor actually has a purpose behind it. You're endeavoring towards something, meaning you're moving towards the North Star, towards the strategy. And in addition to that, endeavor leaves space for continuous improvement. And every organization should have a mindset of continuous improvement. And in addition to that, it also leaves space for failure, right? If you're pushing hard, if you're really working to be able to drive and change the envelope of what's possible within an organization, there will be points of failure. And is the company set up to allow that, to give space for it, so then they can really fly and thrive as well? So the last part I'll leave is performance. A company can measure performance. And how do you reduce execution drift is by making performance repeatable. And that is a key word, repeatable. So they want to act on it, they want to measure it, they want to learn, reinforce, and then improve. But is it repeatable? And if it's repeatable and driving the results they want, then you can focus on another part of the organization and move that towards repeatable. And it becomes exponential as you focus on these different areas of the organization.
Yeah, and I love the fact that, especially in Six Sigma background, we like to set up
Yeah.
upper and lower control limits. So these things are visual, but they also have clear triggers. I mean, you're overproducing, that you weren't, but underproducing, so you don't fall back to the baseline. And what I see too often is we have this initiation of really strong learning implementation. Everybody is on board. As soon as people, let's say the teachers walk away, there's a natural drop.
Right.
But then what at that point, that's really the decision point. At that point, that everyday excellence, that daily coaching, that daily measurement, that cadence of accountability is going to make. But what happens is too often people let it slip all the way back down to baseline. Something happens, they, uh-oh, and now
Right.
retrain people again. And you have this normal cycle of up and down, right? It's getting to that point where you understand there's always a little bit of a drop off after the initial enthusiasm. But then it is about that everyday excellence you talk about in order to be able to drive to get into that therapeutic index, right? The
Yeah.
right amount of energy against the right amount of revenue, and that people to get to buy in, and hopefully they get to enjoy the fruits of their labor too. So one of the things that I see too is that sustainability, as you mentioned, is critically important, and people's attention spans are short, and it takes 60 to 90 to 120 days to establish new normals. So what do you do with an organization, and what should an individual do that they stick with it long enough to make it a new normal, a new habit, in order to have consistent behavior, continuous improvement, performance metrics?
Yeah, I'm going to lean into the Six Sigma piece as well. I'm a Lean Six Sigma black belt as well, and so I love the thought process here. So the first thing is, um, it's what are the milestones, and what is going back to that winning concept. What metrics define success? So it's getting buy-in from the organization that's going to be working towards this metric, that this is important and this is why, and you're important for this and you make a difference, right? So the first thing is gaining that buy-in. But one thing I think that a lot of leaders who are in a hurry to get results and to continue to get results and push and push and push is every transformational effort, and the bigger transformation it is, the bigger it is as a transformation, the more important it is to give a period of stabilization for the operation to stabilize. You were kind of talking about that, Walter, but I wanted to hone in on that, because I see too often that leaders go, okay, we're done with this transformation. What are you going to give me tomorrow? Well, can we first stabilize this? Make sure that we've got it locked in. We've got these repeatable performance standards that will achieve the milestone goals that we want to do, and level out. And then let's take another step. So one of the ways that I've seen success with doing this with our clients, Walter, is using the waterfall method. And so where do we want to get to? Right? If we're at, I don't know, if we want to get to a 40% increase in sales, okay, what are we going to do to get 3%, to get 5%, 8%, 12%? And then also working backwards, what can the company do? What's within the control of that team? When does the metrics no longer become in control of that team? Maybe the team can only get them to 20%, but they want to get to 40%. What other teams do we need to bring in here to help increase the performance? So it no longer becomes only one department or one part of the organization. It becomes a group effort. And as you get more alignment across the organization that we're in this together, the easier it becomes for the organization because you get exponential gains that are unexpected and unintended wins. You start to see those. So what I like to do is pair every outcome metric with the few operating behaviors to produce it. You talked about the three before from the 53. That's what we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
And lining the team up to that. And until they achieve it, keep the eye on the ball. Don't throw in a new metric.
Yeah.
Stay focused on it.
Yeah, listen, laser focus is the key to success, and don't walk away from it. Our behaviors are such that we come short, and that's part of the reason why we're 70-80% of the time we fall short of our set strategies and goals. Where can people find you, Daniel?
Yeah, so the easiest way to find me is in two places. My company website is www.pangeaeffect.com. I'm going to spell that, Walter. PANGEAEFFECT.com. Or on Amazon, you can find my book. It's The E3 Effect. It's a proven blueprint for building world-class teams.
Excellent. Listen, I think that we can have a follow-up conversation on another episode where it is so important as a follow-through that senior leaders tend to lower the expectations as time progresses to meet to make it look good for the organization, which comes at a real cost on the operational side. I've been, the victim of that too many times myself, where commercial overpromises, under-delivers, and operations suffers. But that's another topic, another conversation someday. Give me a parting thought.
Yeah, I think a parting thought is that as a leader, don't begin with technology. As companies, we're very focused on that today, but begin with the decision and the outcome that you want. So what I would say is the answer isn't always to slow down or to go faster. It's to build clarity, ownership, and feedback into the work, and that will allow faster decisions that then produce repeatable results. If you're not having repeatable results, I just encourage you to go look at where the friction and pain point is and have some authentic, direct conversations about that and create some measurements that you can have a weekly feedback loop on. And
Excellent.
between those two things, I think that would move the needle for any organization.
Yeah, and I would only add to that is that you don't need to go at it alone, right? There are experts in the
Yeah.
field like Daniel, like myself, like many other, black belts or master black belts or other facilitators that can help you and be a pair of fresh eyes, but also hold the feet to the fire and make sure there's accountability as you make progress. That's both to support the senior leaders, but also very important to support the middle managers who often have to operationalize these visions. If you have any other questions, come to our website, thedutchmentor.com, book a free strategy call. And again, for any leader listening to this, I have a great new program that's very affordable for you. It's something that's self-paced, you can do it over 42 days, but it is tangible, 15 minutes a day. Go to plp.thedutchmentor.com, go check it out, and let me know what you think of it. Let's have a conversation. Daniel, thank you very much for joining me. I hope the weather gets cooler and that you get to enjoy the RV with your wife. And we're going to have a sidebar conversation about that as I'm going to explore some of that of my own with two beautiful Great Danes. To the audience, without action, there's really nothing else. So do something with this conversation today, make it actionable, measure it, and that's where really sustainable outcomes, whatever it is that you want to have, will bear fruits. Thank you very much and have a